The Prime Minister and the Health Minister have rolled out more of a medical response to the COVID-19 outbreak today, adding Italy to the travel ban list and tipping an extra $2.4 billion into the response. There's money for aged care providers to employ more staff and train extra workers in infection control. There's money for phone and video consultations by GPs, something we've heard them call for on this very show. There'll be 100 clinics set up around the country to test people for the virus, and we'll soon see a $30 million public information program. It's all to the good, and again, it underlines how this government has been pretty quick on this challenge. At the start, there was some criticism about banning travel from China, claims from the university sector and elsewhere that this was overreacting. It was a big call because of the economic and diplomatic cost. The World Health Organization, for instance, criticised Australia, so did Beijing. But whatever else happens from here, clearly these early decisions have enabled this country to get ready to set up for what could be an unprecedented demands on our health system in coming months. At the moment, we've had just over 120 cases in this country, but experience in South Korea and Italy shows this can expand exponentially within a couple of weeks to more than 5,000 cases or so. Let's hope we can slow the virus compared to that, but there's a long way to go on the medical front, especially when it comes to protecting the aged care sector where there is a real threat to lives. And tomorrow we're going to find out more about what the government's doing to provide economic stimulus. There might be nothing that can be done to prevent most of us being exposed to this virus eventually, and there might be nothing that can be done to prevent a global recession. But if the government can stay on top of the situation, respond promptly and wisely without panicking, it'll help us rebound on the other side of this thing better than most, you would think. The worst thing it could do on the economic front would be to overreact, to overdo it. Remember, it was Labor's wild and wasteful and drawn-out stimulus after the global financial crisis that ruined the budget for a decade to come, leaving us still in a fragile position now. Scott Morrison should remember all that only too well. He and Josh Frydenberg need to be much more cautious and targeted. Andrew Clennell has revealed that the package that's going to be announced tomorrow is expected to be about $15 to $20 billion, which sounds a lot bigger than many were tipping. But remember, even that is less than half of Labor's 2009 stimulus package. So with all this going on, it is fascinating to see what former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd has got to say in his current position as head of the Asia Society Policy Institute based in New York.
I'm at the New York Stock Exchange, just been talking to our friends from CNBC on the inevitable subject, the impact of coronavirus on the global economy.
Yep, the former Prime Minister is sharing his thoughts with us on social media. And what is his focus, do you reckon? Is it on how to protect the masses from the virus, perhaps how to insulate Asian populations or European nations or even the people of Australia from infection? Perhaps he's focused on the economic fallout, some ideas on how long travel, production, markets and trade will be hit. Nope. Rudd's focus is on Kevin Rudd. Rudd's focus is on telling people and retelling what he did as Prime Minister. He's focused on defending his legacy, such as it is, defending his actions in government 11 years ago.
Back in Australia, there's a big debate emerging as to what Morrison will do by way of stimulus response for the Australian economy, given the hit to Australian growth coming out of this crisis. I also note in the context of that debate that our good friends in the Murdoch media have been out there attacking my government's stimulus in 2008-9. 3 lines of attack. Too large, they say, went for too long, they say, and it was wasteful, they say.
You better believe it. There you have it. Because there is a need for economic stimulus now, Rudd pretends he owns the idea. Because Australia dodged recession thanks to Chinese demand, a devalued dollar, plunging interest rates, and maybe, let's be generous, maybe some boost from his $52 billion of stimulus spending, Rudd seems to think that his record is beyond criticism. He overdid the surplus back in 2009. It was wasteful. Remember pink bats? It went on forever. Remember school halls? And it led to enormous budget deficits and mounting debt that have inhibited this country ever since. And for Rudd, coronavirus and all, he's still trying to justify what he did back then. It's a salient lesson to Scott Morrison and Josh Frydenberg, in my view, not to go too far too soon.